So I am also part of the group that just returned from Taiwan. And so I have the opportunity to share a little bit about my experience. And today I'll share a little bit of how I grew up. I grew up in many ways in Taiwan, spiritually, emotionally, and also physically I grew up. I started standing about a 1/4 inch taller than before I left, which was pretty amazing. I have scoliosis, and so my back makes some pretty awesome curves, is how the chiropractor in Newport framed it when I first saw him. And in the process of practice in Taiwan, the conditions came together for me to learn how to stand more upright and to really, be more embodied, I think, in my practice of the Dharma, and resulting in better posture. And so this happened due to many things coming together. We learned how to walk like the wind, is how it was described, how to stand like a pine tree. And we practiced standing hours a day during the morning and evening sessions, whereas we're very used to sitting. We were taught to sit like a bell, but we didn't sit much there. It was a lot of standing like a pine tree. And I think that my pine tree looks a little bit more like the ones outside today when the wind is blowing, because I would constantly shift around because it's new to just stand in one spot really still. But in standing in one spot for a long time, the kind person behind me pointed out one day how crooked I looked. And thankfully, I really saw it as just an ordinary comment, like not something, with any ill will, and thought that maybe I could do something about it. I had remembered my old chiropractor had said something like, you just pretend, to push my short side down, because my left side is a little bit taller than my right side. And so I tried kind of standing upright on my right side, on the left side, the tall side, and then the right side just barely was touching the ground, so kind of just pulling that foot down and trying to stand straight in that position, and I got a little bit less crooked and a little bit more upright, and I hope to think upstanding. So because we were so immersed in our practice in Taiwan, similar to the way that we are here, I made a lot of correlations to the Dharma. And so with this idea of being more upstanding, I thought that perhaps that through the purification that I've been doing over these years here at the Abbey, in Taiwan, that perhaps I had purified the karma or some karma that I had done by harming others. Maybe I had purified some of that enough so that I didn't have to experience the same level of discomfort that I have been experiencing for the past number of years, with kind of cycles of different sensations in my back and my hip. And I also think kind of on the other side, perhaps with the purification, was this increased energy and enthusiasm for living in virtue and practicing the precepts of understanding more deeply how ethical conduct really is the foundation for developing concentration and wisdom, and that being mindful of our activities in each moment can really support that concentration and wisdom in daily life. And so we were taught how to eat. We had these small silver bowls that we used. At first we ate out of them before we got our alms bowl at the novice ordination. And then even after that we were served food in these small bowls. And we were taught to hold them precisely like a dragon holding a pearl. And then you eat from there. And you eat, you sit upright. You're not like leaning over your bowl, but you're sitting upright. You're paying attention to if your robe has slipped down, which I don't know how it does when I eat because I'm trying to be pretty still, but the buckle always slips down. And So in paying attention to these daily actions, I noticed this kind of concentration that hadn't really arisen before, just being concentrated on what I was doing, what I was thinking, how I was expressing myself through my body. And keeping aware of these actions of my body and speech in a more purposeful way, I could see this room for contemplating the Dharma more in daily life, because it wasn't the typical like ruminating, like to-do list, like what am I going to do later? What are those guys doing over there? But being more focused on, okay, my group is walking. Now it's time to start walking. That I could, okay, I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. How are my shoulders moving? The different parts that are involved with walking, how I am in relationship to others, the visualization of our line moving. We moved a lot. I thought of kind of as one group, one body was how we were encouraged to move. And so to use this concentration then to think of the causes and conditions really coming together to make this situation possible. Thinking about the kindness of others, which is always involved in every situation that we are in. Thinking about the different parts involved, and thinking about how my mind is conceptualizing and labeling things. And so it was quite beautiful to see this connection between being mindful of my ethics and wanting to keep proper ethics and treat others well and act with integrity, and how when I can focus on that, I'm like in the present moment developing concentration and can use that to increase my wisdom. That it's not this thing where I work on my ethics and then the concentration and wisdom come in the future, but they really are all very interconnected. And so I've really gained a lot of enthusiasm for wanting to strengthen my integrity, wanting to really be aware of how I am impacting the spaces that I'm in. And then also this action of stretching myself. As I was standing on the long side and stretching this short side down, I was reminding myself of this saying that we were taught many times at the ordination of we are, reaching up with one hand towards Buddhahood, and we are reaching down on the other side to help sentient beings. And so through these kind of two energies in my body, one like reaching up and one pushing down, I am learning how to use my body to really come back to my daily motivation of where is my mind? How am I reaching out to others? And how am I reaching up to accomplish my potential and my aims? And so another, I could go on. I'll go on a little bit. Another thing that we were taught in the ordination was that being ordained and living as monastics, we are making the unfamiliar familiar, and we are making what is familiar, we're making that unfamiliar. And so with this adjustment in posture, I'm still very much in the process of making this kind of unfamiliar, standing more on one leg, stretching down the other one is becoming, it's this process of making what is unfamiliar familiar versus my more crooked posture that I didn't think was that crooked. But I believe that it was. For many reasons. But I just wasn't aware of it. I needed the kindness of someone else to actually point out how how crooked it was. And in the same way with some of my bad habits, I need my kind friends to sometimes point out these places that I'm so familiar with that actually are not helpful for myself or others in our spiritual practice. And so some things that I know that I'm really familiar with are like idle talk. I can be kind of loud and boisterous. Using using more awareness, using the experience in Taiwan where there wasn't as much space for idle talk, there wasn't as many people to talk idly with, that I want to keep bringing that into my life, to be aware of when I just kind of want to talk for the sake of talking, and maybe I'm looking for some validation or trying to get some other kind of attachment met, versus how can I try to connect with someone on a more meaningful level and have like a Dharma related conversation. And I also noticed that I'm really familiar with the ruminating, judgmental mind, and that this comes out in the actions of my body and speech. And so working to make what is less familiar, which is kind of automatically thinking of the kindness of others and seeing the good qualities of others and having that be, what my go-to is, as opposed to, oh man, why aren't they doing this? Why is she talking to me like this? Why aren't I getting my way? To instead really look around and see the kindness and get in this habit of rejoicing. And so, yeah, again, using this shift in posture to see the shift in my own mind in monastic life, of getting familiar with new habits and really making cultivating virtue what I want to habituate with. And so it's pretty amazing. I feel actually quite fortunate to have scoliosis. Because in my early life, and I started to experience the discomfort of it, that's when I turned to stretching and yoga, because that's kind of the only thing that I've been told I can do for it. And that led me to want to explore meditation, which led me to being really open and interested in what Buddhism has to offer. And now I'm able to kind of embody my motivations, come back to what my daily aspiration is by adjusting my posture and giving myself these little reminders of like, okay, it's time to walk. How are you walking? How are you standing? And looking at whether, am I standing and walking with a good motivation and virtue in my mind, or am I grumbling in my mind, and can I shift that just like I want to shift my posture? And so this is a long process, all the way to Buddhahood, as each of us is becoming more and more upstanding as we develop our virtues and enthusiasm for practicing them and being considerate of others and having integrity. And that it's not just that, we're doing this for ourselves, for our own comfort or our own happiness, for our own concentration or wisdom, but so that we can inspire and support others to also want to turn towards virtue. And using this, our comportment and our mindfulness to demonstrate that a peaceful and calm mind, can be expressed through a peaceful and calm body and a peaceful and calm environment. And that together we can live harmoniously and create a lot of joy and rejoicing, supporting each other to create our virtues. And in that way, our actions ripple out, and eventually each and every sentient being will be touched and inspired to practice virtue in the same way that we are.